And I have, as some of you know, have been talking for some time about this, because of with Dr. John Mack. John and I were at Harvard trying to set up this new paradigm institute, this worldview institute, to try to talk about the fact that people who are coming at this issue of extraterrestrial intelligence and the UFO phenomenon, et cetera, people tend to prism the whole experience through their own lenses of their worldview. And so therefore, the people who are authoritarians or militarists, they view them as this extraordinary threat. People who are sort of utopianists view them as sort of the George Adamski thing. They've all come from outer space to help us save ourselves from ourselves, and the scientific logical positivists are viewing them as this strange conundrum that's sort of somewhere between the borderline of the material realm and this other realm, whatever it is. So I've been just making myself available over this time since 1977, when I served as special counsel to Jimmy Carter's investigation of the UFOs and extraterrestrial intelligence with Marcia Smith at the Congressional Research Service. And I've been fortunate that because I don't know, maybe one of the few lawyers that pays as much attention to this as I do, I keep getting invited by people to represent them in different contexts, when they're afraid they're going to get threatened or their security clearance is going to get yanked away or whatever it is. And so I've been invited. I have to appear in front of the Inspector General of the Defense Department on Wednesday in Washington, over by Zoom now, representing Lou Elizondo. Because he has filed an Inspector General complaint against the Department of Defense for holding back information about the UFO phenomenon. So I've been leaning on Lou and Chris Mellon to say in public, what I know in private, and talking with them in representing Lou. Well, they didn't do that today. On 60 Minutes, they did the same old shuffle of, who knows what they are, even to the point where, every third of the way through the show, at every single point, somebody would come on and say, they could be an awful threat. Who knows? They could be from China, and Marco Rubio, if they're from China or something, we should know about that. And so that whole thing is going on, as we all know, at a very low level of consciousness about this entire phenomenon. I mean, they're way below the horizon on this discussion. But it is certainly something like Melinda, when you said, what do you think? Did he hit a home run? I was saying it's more like a drag bunt. We've got a runner on first base finally. We got somebody on first base, but there's nobody's getting ready to drive him in. So with this idea of what are they all doing? What is it they're up to? What is the agenda that's going on now? We know perfectly well that when guys like Hal Puthoff and Kit Green and the other folks in Jim Simivan, the people that are working at the To the Stars Academy, perfectly well. I've said it 1,000 times, they're clearly choreographing some type of, limited modified hangout, just like with Nixon, in the Watergate burglary, he was trying to figure out, let's give him a little something, but don't tell him what's really going on here. So what I'm doing is I'm behind the scenes basically with them, trying to persuade them to come forward and really lay it down, get into a major dialectical confrontation with the Defense Department. So what we've done is we've expanded the Inspector General investigation that Lou has initiated against them because he thought they were going to try to stop them from releasing the 60 Minutes thing, right? And so that we put together a complaint in the Inspector General's office, going after them for potentially retaliating against him. And then what we've done is we've expanded it into this other more general investigation to try to get the Defense Department's Inspector General's office to come forward with what it is they really know about the UFO phenomenon. It's a whole separate Inspector General investigation. And so we've got one going on a whistleblower, if they think he's saying things that he shouldn't be saying. And then we've got one for retaliation, which is a separate division of the Inspector General's office, in case they're retaliating against him for saying something that he's perfectly authorized to say. And then we've got the other one going, a whole Inspector General's investigation of, is there something that the Defense Department is doing that's illegal by concealing all this information? So there's 3 major Inspector General investigations going right now. In addition to this bizarre report, or whatever it is that's supposed to be getting handed in here in June. But it's clear that a potential report coming in from the UAP task force inside the Office of Naval Intelligence is supposed to be coming in June. I know from talking with Lou that this is the 3rd person. Well, when he quit as the head of ATIP, his deputy Jed came in to be the head of that, and then they closed it down, and then they had Jed become the head of this new thing inside the Office of Naval Intelligence, the UAP task force. And then Lou was having conversations with him because we were trying to get him to do what should be done, and so they removed him. And now there's this new guy who's in there, and we've been talking. We thought what he's getting ready to try to do is to ask for an extension of time. You gave us this deadline of having to get this in within 180 days, and we need more time. I mean, it's a typical classic foot dragging operation. If they can just delay it longer and hope the news cycle goes on to something else, like the Palestinians and the Israelis having a recent fight, they're hoping that people will forget about this. So what I'm hoping to do is, from the point of view of being asked to represent different people at different times about this whole issue, I've never changed my position. I think that we should talk about this completely and get everybody involved in talking about it. It's the most important issue that I've ever seen in the public issue area, and I've seen a few, as you know. And so, but this is the most important one of them all. And so, now I'm talking to guys. For example, we were talking with a fellow, a Central Intelligence Agency guy, who was in a division which is electronic intelligence of monitoring all kinds of electronic signals in and around the planet. And I mean, this guy's a full-time Central Intelligence Agency guy, and he says, well, of course, we know that the stuff that happened at Roswell, that really did happen. He's just sort of talking about it as sort of off the cuff. He says, of course, that all happened. And I figure that's progress. When you're getting people from inside the CIA sitting right there telling you, yes, sure, that happened, of course. It was because of Don's work, among others, making it just kind of irrefutable. And so that they finally give in when it becomes completely irrefutable. They'll acknowledge that it's true. But it's not clear to me yet exactly what it is or why it is that this drumbeat has started here. This whole kind of acceleration of talking about this issue, acknowledging that it's, quote, real. But I clearly don't go as far as Stephen Greer does, of saying, well, they're obviously getting set to undertake some kind of a false flag operation, and so they're trying to beat the drums about this terrible threat. I don't think that's what's going on. But I don't know what's going on. And one of the most important principles that any of us can follow, as we all know, is don't pretend you know more than you know. Because more damage is done by people thinking they know what they're doing.
Really